Donald Trump is forcing soldiers to pick up garbage in Washington, D.C. Remember, he respects the troops. No one respects and supports the military more than Donald Trump. And what Donald Trump is now having the National Guard do is to pick up trash in Washington, D.C. This is not a euphemism. It's literally picking up trash. Now, there's nothing wrong with picking up trash. It's an honest job that improves our communities, but it's not what the military is trained for. And so we look at the video and we see trained, uniformed, federally funded members of the military walking the streets with gloves and trash bags, and in some cases, trash picks. And this is not a volunteer event to beautify our greenways or to clean up the bike path. This is what they are doing as part of this triumphant and courageous keeping DC safe farce. Now, according to the task force that's in charge, more than 2,200 troops are deployed in DC right now. They're not doing disaster relief. They're not even really doing public safety. They've shifted their mission into what is being called beautification. Now, nearly half of them aren't even from Washington, D.C. They were pulled from Louisiana, Mississippi, Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee, West Virginia, places that have their own problems with crime and their own problems with trash. And they've come all the way to Washington, D.C. to haul trash bags. Now, Trump is saying this is a great community restoration effort. He's bragging about crime is down. We've already fixed it in D.C. We'll examine that in a little more depth later. But this is, at its core, a photo op. The D.C. Guard even posted a video of soldiers lined up with trash bags and quotes about making D.C. beautiful again. And the question that I find myself asking is, what is the National Guard actually for? The National Guard has a long history, and we've deployed the National Guard before during national disasters, of course, to respond after terrorist attacks, sometimes to protect communities at times of unrest. And there have been controversial uses of the National Guard before. We've talked about Eisenhower sending troops to enforce desegregation in Little Rock, Arkansas. We've talked about Nixon using the National Guard during anti-war protests. We've talked about the National Guard during George W. Bush's presidency and that post-Katrina disaster response. But at least there, either the National Guard was trying to preserve and defend rights, or there was a real emergency. There was a constitutional obligation there for the National Guard. Right now, Trump, who says the military has no greater defender than him, is using the National Guard as a publicly funded street cleaning crew, which is a new one. And I think the misuse is relevant here. Every guards person that is doing this is one fewer person, one less person available for real emergencies. And the kicker is that Trump insists that he's the best for the troops. It's one of his applause lines. But what does it look like? And apparently for Trump, respecting the troops means you take men and women trained for disaster response and for defending the country and for specialized missions, and you say you're doing sanitation right now. I want to again say, picking up garbage is not beneath anybody. It's important to pick up garbage. It's honest work. The people who do it should be paid fairly. They should have good working conditions. They should have the best tools we have for doing that job. But the point is that that's a job that should be done by the people trained and hired to do it. When you give that job to the military, you're not honoring their skills, you're wasting their skills. And it is a situation where every hour spent on this stunt is an hour that you are paying for, and it's an hour that I am paying for. And it's something that we have city sanitation workers trained for. Why is it that our taxpayer money is going to service members doing it? Now, Trump has been obsessed with optics since day one, and he wanted his military parade. Back during his first term, there was the Lafayette Square clearing so he could hold up a Bible for cameras back in 2020. And now it's Make DC Beautiful again, rife with imported troops to clean graffiti and pick up cigarette butts. So it's the same formula we've seen from Trump before. It's a symbolic act. You wrap it in patriotism. You hope nobody stops and says, why are soldiers doing something that there's a public works crew that could handle? And you push a sort of cosmetic victory in the most literal sense, picking up trash. But that's not really DC's problem. DC's problem isn't cigarette butts by the waterfront. It's housing shortages and inequality and food insecurity and crime in areas where Trump hasn't even deployed the National Guard. So this is just total nonsense. The real solutions, as is often the case, dealing with housing policy and these other things, it doesn't make for flashy footage or headlines or something Trump can just show up and point to. And so Trump's using the military as a PR team, sort of like as a prop. And when we start using the military that way, it's not just a waste of money. We really are potentially endangering national security by taking troops away from the skills, from the activities that they were trained for. And today it's picking up garbage. Tomorrow it's, I don't know. This is not the job of the military. And Trump is not respecting the troops by doing this.